For more on this, let's bring in Chris Stirewalt, a senior fellow for the American Enterprise Institute and contributing editor for The Dispatch. Chris, thanks so much for being with us. Obviously, there are a lot of issues getting voters' attention. We mentioned Roe v. Wade, but also inflation. So right now, are people going to be going to the polls because they're so impassioned over some of these key issues?
Well, those are great general election issues. And in the general election, those are the issues that Republicans and Democrats are going to be beating each other over the head with to try to turn persuadable voters. This is about a family feud, right? Primary days are about fights between Republicans, between Democrats, and we have just an amazing one shaping up in Pennsylvania today. There's a battle going on for what the future of the Republican Party looks like. There are different voices. The intensity is through the roof. The passions are very high, and I expect big turnout.
Pennsylvania's GOP Senate primary getting obviously the most attention. It's been a tight three-way race. Former President Trump endorsing Dr. Oz, who has had his own controversies, of course, and so is Kathy Barnett. But President Trump had said, or former President Trump had said, that Kathy Barnett could not win in a general election. And you had a lot to say about that. Can you explain?
Well, look, we know the president's going to have a good day in North Carolina, or it looks like the president's going to have former president's going to have a good day in North Carolina with Ted Budd. It was a strategic choice. Looks like it'll work out well for him. He took a bigger chance in Pennsylvania by backing Oz, who was not identified as a conservative, not identified as a Republican before, but a celebrity, and the president backed him, and it seemed like a strange or potentially risky choice. What is remarkable here is that you have Barnett, who very much would remind you in a lot of ways of Donald Trump in 2016. She's an insurgent, and the establishment, which now Donald Trump is part of, says, oh, you can't trust her, she won't win, it's a bad choice for November. Those arguments didn't work against Trump in 2016, and so far they haven't seemed to work against Barnett. And if anything, it has encouraged those kinds of voters who we now think of as MAGA voters or Trump voters, it has encouraged them to dig in deeper for Barnett, because one of the things that we know about these voters, these populist voters, these nationalist voters, is the last thing they want is somebody to tell them how to vote. And I think they being against her has helped Barnett in a pretty profound way.
Interesting. What about Democrats in Pennsylvania? Is there any chance that they really could flip that seat, that Senate seat?
Well, there's certainly a chance. Pennsylvania is a Democratic state. It's a blue state that did vote for Trump in 2016, but it is a Democratic state. They have a problem, though, which is probably the safer choice would have been Connor Lamb, the congressman from the western part of the state, who is a moderate Democrat. But Fetterman, the lieutenant governor, who is a colorful character and more of a progressive, took the early lead, and Lamb never seemed to be able to catch up. Him suffering a stroke late in the game here is going to cause Democrats to have some concerns. I doubt it will be enough for Lamb to surpass Fetterman, but it's going to make them say, do we have the right candidate going into the general election? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be ready to contest what will be one of the most expensive, the most intense competitions of all of the Senate races in the country, and on which control of the Senate may hang for Democrats?
Chris Stirewalt, thank you so much for being with us this morning on Morning in America. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.